I used to think my family was unbreakable. We weren't perfect, no one is, but my mom, my stepdad, and I had this quiet rhythm. He came into our lives when I was 12, and for years, I thought he was the best thing that ever happened to us. I was wrong. So wrong. I'm 28 now, and I still replay the moment it all fell apart. Sometimes I wonder if I should have seen the signs earlier. The late-night phone calls, the locked office door, the sudden tension between him and Mom. But I didn't. Because when you love someone, you don't look for reasons to doubt them. Growing up, my stepdad, Daniel, treated me like his own son. He taught me how to fix things around the house, took me fishing, even showed up at my soccer games. My real dad had left when I was little, so Daniel filled a space I didn't even know was still empty. Mom was happy again, and that was all I cared about. But as I got older, things started to shift. Daniel became quieter. He'd come home later, drink more, and argue with Mom about things I didn't understand. Money, work, trust. I tried to ignore it, until the night everything changed. It was a Thursday. I remember because I'd just come home from college for the weekend. Mom was in the kitchen, her hands shaking as she tried to make dinner. I asked her what was wrong, and she just said, "We'll talk later, sweetheart." But she never got the chance. That night, I woke up to shouting. Mom's voice, then Daniel's. It wasn't the usual argument. This was raw, like years of secrets spilling out all at once. I crept down the hallway and stopped outside their bedroom door. I know I shouldn't have listened, but something in me said I needed to. Mom's voice cracked through the door. "You told me she was dead, Daniel." Dead. I froze. Who was she? Daniel's voice came next, lower, angrier. "I did what I had to do. You don't understand." Mom's sobs filled the room. "You lied to me for 18 years. 18 years. That was my whole life." I felt my stomach drop. What was she talking about? I wanted to burst in, but my legs wouldn't move. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. Mom said, "Does he even know the truth? Does he know she's still alive?" I remember backing away slowly, my heart pounding in my throat. She, alive? Who was she? Was she talking about my real mom? No, that couldn't be. My mom was right there. But then, what if the woman I called mom all my life wasn't my real mother? I barely slept that night. By morning, Daniel was gone. No note, no calls, nothing. Mom looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Her eyes were red, her hands trembling as she made coffee. When I asked what happened, she just said, "He's not coming back." That's it. No explanation. No truth. Just silence. For weeks, I tried to reach him. I called, texted, even drove to his office. But it was empty. Desk cleared out, name removed. He'd vanished. That's when the cracks started to spread through our family. Mom quit her job. Bills piled up. And every time I tried to bring him up, she'd shut down completely. Until one night, after too much wine, she finally broke. She looked at me and said, "You deserve to know the truth, but I don't know how to tell you." Her voice shook so badly, I had to hold her hands to calm her. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Daniel wasn't just your stepfather. He was your real father too." I laughed. I thought she was drunk or confused. But then she showed me a photograph. It was old, faded. A hospital room. A newborn baby, me, in Daniel's arms. And standing beside him, a woman I'd never seen before. Not my mom. I stared at it for a long time before whispering, "Who is she?" Mom hesitated. "She's your biological mother. She didn't die." Daniel told me she did, but she didn't. I couldn't speak. Every piece of my childhood, every memory, every truth, shattered in one sentence. That night I sat alone in my room, holding that photo, trying to understand how the man who raised me could hide something like that. Why lie about something so big? Why pretend she was dead? And then, as if the universe wanted to twist the knife, I got a message from an unknown number. It said, "I think it's time you knew who I am. Attached was another picture. It was the same woman from the photo. Older now, but unmistakable. Alive. I didn't sleep that night. I just kept staring at the photo on my phone. The woman who was supposed to be dead, looking right back at me. Her message replayed in my head, "I think it's time you knew who I am." I typed a reply, deleted it, typed again. Finally, I wrote, "Who are you?" A few seconds later, 3 dots appeared. Then her response came, "I'm your mother." I just sat there, frozen. My heart felt like it stopped beating for a few seconds. I didn't know if I should feel angry, scared, or relieved. All I knew was, my entire life had been built on a lie. The next morning, I confronted Mom. I showed her the message. She went pale. "She found you," she whispered. I asked, "So it's true? She's alive?" Tears filled her eyes. "Yes, but you need to understand, it's not what you think." She took a deep breath and began to explain. Apparently, Daniel, my stepdad, or rather, my real father, had been married before. To her, the woman in the photo, my biological mother. But their marriage was dark, full of jealousy, control, and betrayal. She'd left when I was a baby, taking me with her. But then something happened, something that changed everything. Mom's voice broke as she said it. There was an accident. She disappeared. Daniel told everyone she died. I believed him. And he convinced the courts to give you to him. My head was spinning. "So you raised me thinking she was gone?" I asked. She nodded, crying. "Yes, until last month, when I found proof she wasn't." That proof was a hospital record. My biological mother had been alive all along, living under a different name in another city. She'd been trying to contact Daniel for years, but he kept her letters hidden. He never wanted anyone to find out. I couldn't breathe. Why would he do that? What could possibly be so big that he'd fake someone's death? I needed answers. And since Daniel had disappeared, there was only one person who could give them to me. Her. I messaged her again. We agreed to meet at a small cafe in the next town over. The drive there felt endless. My hands were shaking the whole way. When I finally walked in, I recognized her instantly, even after all those years. She stood up, tears already in her eyes. "You look just like him," she said softly. I sat down, staring at her. "You're real," I said. "You're actually here." She nodded. I've waited 18 years for this moment. For a while, we just sat in silence. Then I asked the question that had been burning in my mind. "Why did you leave?" Her face fell. "Because he made me." She explained everything. Daniel hadn't just been controlling, he'd been dangerous. When she tried to take me and leave for good, he used his connections to have her declared unstable. He convinced everyone, even the courts, that she died in an accident overseas. And then, when he married my mom, he buried the past completely. I felt sick. Everything I thought I knew about Daniel, the kind, steady man who raised me, was a mask. He wanted control over everything, she said quietly. Even you. I asked her why she never went public, why she didn't try harder to expose him. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Because he threatened me. He said if I ever came near you again, he'd ruin your life, and hers. I couldn't believe it. The man who taught me right from wrong had built his whole life on lies and fear. I left the cafe in a daze. Rain was falling hard, but I didn't even care. All I could think about was finding him. He couldn't just vanish and leave this destruction behind. So I did what anyone desperate for truth would do. I searched. Old contacts, records, even mutual friends. And finally, I found him. In a news article. The headline read, "Local businessman arrested in fraud and identity case." There was his photo, Daniel. Tired, older, but unmistakably him. When I saw him in court a few days later, he wouldn't even look at me. But when the hearing ended, he turned briefly, and for a second, our eyes met. No guilt, no apology, just emptiness. I wanted to scream, to demand why he'd done it. Why he'd destroyed every version of love and trust I'd ever had. But when I looked at him, I realized something. He wasn't capable of love anymore. He'd spent so long protecting lies, he didn't know what truth even felt like. After the trial, my biological mother came to see me again. She said softly, "He can't hurt anyone anymore. You're free now." But I didn't feel free. I felt hollow. Like every piece of my life had been rewritten without my consent. Mom, the woman who raised me, eventually moved away. She said she couldn't bear the memories anymore. And I tried to build something out of what was left. Sometimes I look at that old photograph, Daniel holding me as a baby, my two mothers on either side of him, and I wonder what kind of man I might have become if none of this had happened. But then I realize, maybe I needed to see the truth, no matter how painful it was. Because sometimes, the people who raise you teach you how to love, and others teach you what love should never become. End of story, resolution and moral. Lies can protect you for a while, but truth is what sets you free, even if it breaks everything first. Subscribe for more stories like this, true, emotional, and unforgettable.